The restaurant lighting bounced off the polished floors as Harrison Pierce rolled his wheelchair through the entrance of Bellissimo, one of the city's finest Italian restaurants. His hands gripped the wheels with a confidence that came from 2 years of practice, 2 years since the car accident that changed everything. His navy blue suit fit perfectly, his brown hair was neatly styled, and his gray eyes held a mixture of hope and caution. At 42 years old, Harrison had built an empire in tech software, but tonight he was just a man hoping for a simple dinner conversation. His friend Greg had set up this blind date with Bethany Winters, a marketing executive. "She's smart, successful, and ready to settle down," Greg had promised. Harrison had been hesitant, but loneliness had a way of making even the most independent person crave connection. He spotted her immediately. Bethany stood near the hostess stand in a sleek gray dress, her blonde hair cascading over her shoulders. She was checking her phone, looking polished and poised. Harrison took a breath and rolled toward her. "Bethany?" he called out with a warm smile. She looked up, her blue eyes landing on him. For a split second, Harrison saw it, the flicker of surprise, then disappointment, then something worse. Disgust. Her perfectly made-up face twisted as her gaze dropped to his wheelchair. "You're Harrison?" Her voice carried across the entrance, louder than necessary. "Yes, it's nice to meet you." Harrison extended his hand, keeping his smile in place despite the sinking feeling in his stomach. Bethany didn't take his hand. Instead, she stepped back, her expensive heels clicking on the marble floor. "Greg didn't mention you were in a wheelchair." The way she said it made it sound like a disease. Harrison felt his smile falter. "I had an accident 2 years ago. But I assure you, I can still enjoy a good meal and conversation." "This is unbelievable." Bethany's voice rose higher. Several diners near the entrance turned to look. "I don't have time for this. I came here expecting a normal date with a normal man." The word, normal, hit Harrison like a physical blow. He'd heard variations of this before, but it never got easier. "I am a normal man," Harrison said quietly, his dignity holding firm even as embarrassment colored his cheeks. "I just use a wheelchair to get around. Look, I'm sure you're a nice person, but this isn't what I signed up for. I have standards. I need someone who can actually take me dancing, who can walk beside me at events, someone who—" She trailed off, shaking her head. "I'm sorry, but no. This isn't going to work." She turned on her heel and walked out, leaving Harrison sitting alone in the entrance of the restaurant. The hostess looked away quickly, embarrassed for him. A waiter pretended to adjust menus. The other guests whispered among themselves. Harrison sat there, frozen. His hands clenched the armrests of his wheelchair. 2 years of therapy, of learning to live again, of building his confidence back up, and it all crumbled in under 2 minutes. The humiliation burned through him. He wanted to leave, to roll out of there and never look back, but his body wouldn't move. Shame rooted him to the spot. "Excuse me, sir?" The voice was soft, kind. Harrison looked up to see a woman in a bright blue cleaning uniform holding a mop and bucket. She was beautiful, with warm brown skin, kind dark eyes, and her hair pulled back into a neat ponytail. She couldn't have been more than 30 years old. Her name tag read Tanya. "I saw what happened," Tanya said gently. She set down her cleaning supplies and crouched slightly so she was at his eye level. "And I just wanted to say that woman is a fool." Harrison blinked, surprised. "You don't have to." "No, I do have to," Tanya interrupted, her voice firm but compassionate. "Because what she did was cruel and you don't deserve that. Nobody deserves that." Tears pricked at Harrison's eyes, but he refused to let them fall. "Thank you." That woman walked away from what could have been a wonderful evening with what looks like a good man, Tanya continued. She stood up straight, her eyes fierce with conviction. "You deserve better than someone who can't see past a chair. You deserve someone who sees you." Harrison felt something crack open inside him. This stranger, this janitor, had shown him more kindness in 30 seconds than Bethany had in 2 minutes. "I'm Tanya," she said, offering her hand. "Harrison." He shook her hand, grateful for the simple human contact. "Would you like to stay for dinner?" Tanya asked. "I'm on my break in 10 minutes. I can't afford the fancy stuff here, but there's a diner down the street that makes the best burgers in the city. My treat." Harrison looked at this woman who had no reason to be kind to him, who probably worked long hours for little pay, offering to spend her hard-earned money on a stranger. Something about her genuine smile and the lack of pity in her eyes made him want to say yes. "I would like that very much," Harrison said. "But please let me buy. It's the least I can do." "Deal," Tanya agreed with a warm smile that reached her eyes. As Harrison rolled toward the exit, leaving behind the fancy restaurant and the woman who couldn't see past his wheelchair, He felt the first genuine spark of hope he'd experienced in months. Sometimes the worst moments led to the best beginnings. Have you ever witnessed someone being treated unfairly and wished you could change it? What would you have done in Tanya's place? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe to see how this unexpected meeting changes both their lives forever. The diner Tanya brought him to was nothing like Bellissimo. Checkered floors, red vinyl booths, and the smell of grease and coffee filled the air. A jukebox in the corner played oldies, and the walls were covered with photographs of the neighborhood from decades past. Harrison couldn't remember the last time he'd been somewhere so ordinary, so real. Tanya had changed out of her cleaning uniform into jeans and a bright green sweater that brought out the warmth in her complexion. She slid into the booth across from him after he transferred from his wheelchair, which he'd folded and placed beside their table. "Best burger in the city, I promise," Tanya said as she handed him a laminated menu. "I've been coming here since I was a kid." "It already beats the place I was supposed to be at," Harrison said with a slight smile. A waitress came by, an older woman with gray hair and a friendly face. "The usual, Tanya?" "Yes, please, Rita. And my friend here will have." Tanya looked at Harrison expectantly. "I'll have the same," Harrison said, trusting her judgment. "2 bacon cheeseburgers with everything and a side of those crispy fries," Rita confirmed, writing it down. "What to drink?" "Sweet tea for me," Tanya said. "Same," Harrison added. After Rita left, Tanya folded her hands on the table and looked at Harrison with genuine curiosity. "So, tell me about yourself. And I don't mean the wheelchair. I mean you." Harrison felt something loosen in his chest. When was the last time someone had asked about him as a person? "What do you want to know?" "Everything. Start wherever you want." Harrison found himself talking. He told her about growing up in Boston, about how he'd always loved computers and technology. He explained how he'd started his company, Pierce Technologies, from his college dorm room and built it into a multi-million-dollar software corporation. He talked about his accident too. A drunk driver had hit his car 2 years ago, damaging his spine. The doctors said he'd never walk again. "But you kept going," Tanya observed. "You didn't give up." "I thought about it," Harrison admitted. "For a long time I thought about giving up. But I had employees depending on me, projects that mattered. And somewhere deep down I still wanted to live." "That takes courage," Tanya said softly. "What about you?" Harrison asked, wanting to shift the focus away from himself. "Tell me about Tanya." Tanya's expression brightened and saddened at the same time. "I'm a single mom. My daughter Kenji is 7 years old, and she's the light of my life. Her father left when I was pregnant. Said he wasn't ready to be a dad." "His loss," Harrison said firmly. "That's what I tell myself," Tanya agreed. She pulled out her phone and showed him a picture. A little girl with bouncing curls and the same warm smile as her mother beamed at the camera. She wore a bright red dress and held a stuffed rabbit. "She's beautiful," Harrison said genuinely. "She is. She's smart too, loves reading and math. But..." Tanya's smile faded. "She has a heart condition. It's been getting worse. She needs surgery, but my insurance won't cover all of it, and I've been working 2 jobs just to save up." Harrison's heart clenched. Here was this woman who had shown him kindness when she had every reason to be bitter about her own struggles. "How much do you need?" Harrison asked. Tanya shook her head quickly. "Oh no, I wasn't telling you that to ask for money. I was just explaining my situation. I know you weren't asking. I'm offering." "Harrison, you don't even know me." "I know enough," Harrison said. "I know you're a good person. I know you stopped to help a stranger when you didn't have to. I know you're working yourself to the bone for your daughter. Let me help." Tanya's eyes filled with tears. "I can't accept that. It's too much." "Why not?" Harrison challenged gently. "Is it because you think there's something wrong with accepting help?" "Because there isn't. We all need help sometimes. I needed help tonight and you gave it to me. Let me return the favor." "That was different. I just sat with you." "You did more than sit with me. You reminded me that I'm still human, still worth something." "That's not a small thing, Tanya." Their food arrived, giving Tanya a moment to compose herself. She wiped her eyes with a napkin and took a breath. "Why are you really doing this?" she asked. "Because I can," Harrison said simply. "I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. What's the point of having it if I can't use it to help someone who actually needs it? Please, Tanya. Let me do this." Tanya looked at him for a long moment, searching his face. Whatever she saw there must have convinced her because she nodded slowly. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay. Thank you. I don't know how to thank you enough." "You already did," Harrison said. You saw me tonight when everyone else looked away. That's thanks enough. They ate their burgers, which really were the best Harrison had ever tasted. They talked about everything and nothing. Tanya told him about Kenji's love for dinosaurs and her dream of becoming a veterinarian. Harrison told her about his plans to expand his company into educational software for kids. You should meet Kenji, Tanya said suddenly. She would love you. She's always asking about science and computers, and I don't always have the answers. I would like that very much, Harrison said. By the time they left the diner, Harrison felt lighter than he had in months. He exchanged numbers with Tanya, promising to call her the next day to arrange payment for Kenji's surgery. As he drove home in his specially modified car, Harrison realized something. Tonight was supposed to be about finding romance, about ending his loneliness. Instead, he'd found something more valuable, a real connection with another human being who didn't see his wheelchair first. He thought about Tanya's smile, about her daughter in the bright red dress, about the kindness in her eyes. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something good. Behind him, in her own beat-up sedan, Tanya drove home with tears streaming down her face. Not tears of sadness, but tears of relief and gratitude. For the first time in years, she felt hope. Real, genuine hope that maybe things would be okay. She thought about Harrison, about his gentle manner and his loneliness that matched her own. She thought about how easy it was to talk to him, how he didn't judge her for being a janitor or a single mom. Thank you, she whispered to the universe. Thank you for putting him in my path tonight. Neither of them knew it yet, but their lives had just changed forever. Sometimes the worst blind date led to the best real connection. Sometimes kindness was the first step toward love. 3 days after their diner meeting, Harrison sat in his office on the 20th floor of Pierce Technologies building. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, and his desk held 3 monitors displaying various reports and data. But for once he wasn't focused on work. He was thinking about Tanya and her daughter. He'd spent the past 2 days researching pediatric cardiologists and the best hospitals for Kenji's type of surgery. Money was no object. What mattered was getting the little girl the best possible care. Harrison picked up his phone and dialed Tanya's number. Hello. Her voice sounded tired. Tanya? It's Harrison. Is this a bad time? No, not at all. He could hear her smile through the phone. I just got home from my morning shift. Kenji's at school. Good. I wanted to talk to you about her surgery. There was a pause. Okay. I found the best pediatric cardiac surgeon in the country. Dr. Patricia Walsh at St. Mary's Medical Center. She has a 98% success rate with the type of procedure Kenji needs. I've already spoken with her office, and they can schedule Kenji within the next 2 weeks. Harrison. Tanya's voice wavered. Before you say anything, I want you to know that everything is arranged. The surgery, the hospital stay, all the follow-up care. Everything is covered. You just need to bring Kenji in for an initial consultation. This is too much, Tanya said, but her voice held more wonder than protest. It's not nearly enough for what you did for me, Harrison replied. You gave me something money can't buy. Let me give your daughter what she needs. Tanya was quiet for a moment. Harrison could hear her breathing, could almost sense her internal struggle. Tanya, I know accepting help is hard. Believe me, I know. After my accident, I had to accept help with everything. Getting dressed, showering, eating. My pride took a beating. But I learned something important. Accepting help doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. And sometimes, letting someone help you is a gift to them too. A gift? Tanya asked. Yes. You let me feel useful again. You let me remember that my life has purpose beyond spreadsheets and board meetings. Please let me do this. For Kenji and for me too. Harrison heard a sob on the other end of the line, then Tanya's voice, thick with emotion. Thank you. Thank you so much. I accept. With all my heart, I accept. Good, Harrison said, relief flooding through him. Now, I was wondering if I could meet Kenji. If you're comfortable with that. Maybe I could stop by after school one day this week? She gets home at 3:30. Would tomorrow work? Tomorrow is perfect. Text me your address. The next afternoon, Harrison pulled up to a small apartment building in a working-class neighborhood. The building needed paint, and the playground equipment looked worn, but flower boxes hung in several windows, and children's chalk drawings decorated the sidewalk. It was a place where people made the best of what they had. Tanya met him at the entrance, wearing jeans and a bright maroon blouse. Hi, she said, her smile nervous but genuine. Hi yourself, Harrison replied. He dressed casually too, in khakis and a blue button-down shirt. Kenji's been asking about you since I told her you were coming, Tanya said as she led him to the elevator. She's excited to meet a real computer genius. I don't know about genius, Harrison said with a laugh. Trust me, to a 7-year-old who can barely work a tablet, you're basically a superhero. They reached the 3rd floor and walked down a narrow hallway to apartment 3C. Tanya opened the door and Harrison rolled inside. The apartment was small but spotlessly clean. The walls were painted a cheerful yellow and drawings covered the refrigerator. A small couch sat against one wall, and a bookshelf overflowed with children's books. Everything was modest but full of love. Kenji, honey, Mr. Harrison is here, Tanya called out. A door burst open and a little girl bounded out. She wore bright red leggings and a dinosaur t-shirt, her curls bouncing as she moved. When she saw Harrison's wheelchair, she didn't miss a beat. Wow, that's so cool, Kenji exclaimed, coming closer. Can I see how it works? Harrison glanced at Tanya, who nodded with an apologetic smile. Sure, Harrison said. This button here moves me forward and this one makes me go backward. These controls help me turn. That's really smart, Kenji said seriously. Did you design it yourself? No, but I did make some modifications to make it work better for me. Because you're good at technology, Kenji stated. Mommy said you build computer programs. I do. Do you like computers? Kenji nodded enthusiastically. I love them. We have a computer lab at school and I'm the best in my class at the typing game. And I can make the turtle draw shapes on the screen using code. Turtle graphics, Harrison said, impressed. That's real programming. You're learning young. I want to learn more, but Mommy says computers are expensive. Harrison looked at Tanya, who shrugged helplessly. I can barely afford rent. A home computer isn't in the budget. An idea formed in Harrison's mind, but he filed it away for later. Kenji, your mom told me you like dinosaurs, Harrison said. I love dinosaurs. My favorite is the Velociraptor. They were really smart and worked together in packs. Like a team. That's my favorite too, Harrison said. You know, scientists use computers to figure out a lot of what we know about dinosaurs. They use something called modeling to recreate how dinosaurs might have moved and lived. Kenji's eyes went wide. Really? Computers can do that? Computers can do almost anything if you know how to program them right. They spent the next hour talking. Harrison showed Kenji some simple programs on his phone. Tanya made them all snacks, bringing out cookies and juice boxes. Harrison felt completely at ease, more relaxed than he'd been in years. As the afternoon wore on, Kenji started to look tired. Tanya noticed immediately. Time for your rest, sweetie, Tanya said gently. But I'm not tired, Kenji protested even as she rubbed her eyes. Doctor's orders, remember? Kenji sighed but nodded. She walked over to Harrison and surprised him by hugging him carefully. Thank you for coming. Will you come back? Absolutely, Harrison promised. And next time I'll bring you something special. After Kenji went to her room for her mandatory rest period, Tanya sat down on the couch near Harrison's wheelchair. She doesn't know about the surgery. I haven't figured out how to tell her yet. We'll tell her together, Harrison said. After the consultation with Dr. Walsh. We'll explain it in a way she can understand. Tanya repeated softly. If that's okay with you. I'd like to be involved, to be there for both of you through this. Why? Tanya asked. We're practically strangers. Are we though? Harrison countered. I feel like I've known you longer than 3 days. And honestly, I haven't felt this connected to anyone in a very long time. Not since before my accident. Tanya looked at him with those kind, understanding eyes. I feel it too. Like we were supposed to meet. Like that horrible blind date happened so we could find each other. Maybe it did, Harrison agreed. Maybe some things happened for a reason. Before he left, Harrison had one more thing to do. He pulled out his phone and sent a quick text to his assistant. Within minutes he had a response. I'm having a computer delivered here tomorrow, Harrison told Tanya. Nothing fancy, just a good basic setup that Kenji can use for learning and schoolwork. Harrison, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. That little girl is brilliant, Tanya. She deserves every opportunity to learn and grow. And after her surgery, she's going to need things to do while she recovers. Might as well be educational things. Tanya's eyes filled with tears. You're too kind. I'm just paying forward the kindness you showed me, Harrison said simply. As he rode the elevator down and rolled out to his car, Harrison felt something he hadn't felt in 2 years. Purpose. Not the purpose of building a company or making money, but the purpose of making a real difference in real people's lives. He thought about Kenji's bright smile and quick mind. He thought about Tanya's strength and grace despite her struggles. He thought about how natural it felt to be in their small apartment, how much more real it felt than his own empty penthouse. This was just the beginning. Harrison was determined to see this family through, to be there for them in whatever way they needed. And somewhere in his heart, a part of him that had been frozen since his accident began to thaw. Maybe, just maybe, he'd found something worth more than all his billions. He'd found people who saw him, really saw him, wheelchair and all, and didn't look away. The computer arrived at Tanya's apartment the next morning. 2 technicians set it up in the corner of the living room where Tanya had cleared a small space. It came with a monitor, keyboard, mouse, and a printer. The technicians also installed educational software and set up parental controls. Kenji came home from school to find the setup waiting. Her scream of joy brought neighbors to their doors. "Mommy, is this really ours?" Kenji asked, her hands hovering over the keyboard as if afraid to touch something so precious. "It's really ours, baby. Mr. Harrison sent it for you." "He's the best," Kenji declared. She immediately sat down and started exploring. Within minutes, she'd figured out how to open programs and was navigating with surprising ease. Tanya took a photo of Kenji at the computer and sent it to Harrison with a simple message: "You made her whole year. Thank you." His response came quickly: "This is just the beginning." 3 days later, Tanya, Harrison, and Kenji sat in Dr. Walsh's office at St. Mary's Medical Center. The office was bright and welcoming, with paintings of animals on the walls and a small play area in the corner. Dr. Walsh was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a gentle manner. She spoke directly to Kenji, explaining the surgery in terms a child could understand. "Your heart is like an engine that pumps blood through your body," Dr. Walsh said. "Right now, one of the parts of your engine isn't working quite right. So we're going to go in and fix it while you're sleeping. You won't feel anything, I promise." "Will it hurt after?" Kenji asked. "A little bit, yes. But we have medicine that helps with that. And you know what? You'll get to have ice cream every day while you recover." "Really?" Kenji perked up. "Really? It's one of the few times your mom will let you have as much ice cream as you want." After examining Kenji and reviewing her medical history, Dr. Walsh spoke with Tanya and Harrison privately while Kenji played with the toys in the waiting room. "The surgery needs to happen soon," Dr. Walsh said. "Within the next 2 weeks. Her condition is progressing faster than I'd like. But I'm confident about the outcome. She's young, otherwise healthy and strong. When can we schedule it?" Harrison asked. "How about next Thursday? That gives us time to run all the preoperative tests and gives Kenji a week to prepare mentally." Tanya's hands shook as she signed the consent forms. Harrison reached over and squeezed her hand gently. "She's going to be fine," he said quietly. "You don't know that," Tanya whispered, her fears showing through for the first time. "You're right, I don't. But I believe it. And I'll be there with you every step of the way." True to his word, Harrison showed up at Tanya's apartment every evening that week. He brought dinner each time, insisting that Tanya shouldn't have to cook after working all day. He brought Chinese food, pizza, sandwiches from a local deli. They ate together like a family, talking and laughing. Harrison helped Kenji with her homework, patiently explaining math concepts and science principles. He showed her more about computers, teaching her basic coding principles. Kenji soaked it all up like a sponge. "You're a natural teacher," Tanya observed one evening after Kenji had gone to bed. They sat in the small living room, Tanya on the couch and Harrison in his wheelchair nearby. "I enjoy it," Harrison admitted. "I never thought about having kids before, but being with Kenji makes me wonder what I've been missing." "You still could, have kids of your own." "Maybe," Harrison said, but he was looking at Tanya when he said it. Tanya felt her cheeks warm. Over the past week, she'd become increasingly aware of Harrison as more than just a kind benefactor. She noticed the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. She noticed how patient and gentle he was with Kenji. She noticed how comfortable she felt in his presence, how easy it was to talk to him about anything. But she pushed those feelings down. Men like Harrison didn't fall for women like her. He was a billionaire CEO. She was a janitor with a sick kid. This was about Kenji, about making sure her daughter got well. Nothing more. Except it was starting to feel like more. At work, Tanya's coworker Rita noticed the change in her. "You've been smiling a lot lately," Rita observed as they cleaned an office building late one evening. Rita was in her 50s, a grandmother who'd been cleaning offices for 20 years. She wore a bright blue uniform identical to Tanya's. "Have I?" Tanya tried to sound casual. "You have. Does this have anything to do with that man who's been picking you up after your shift?" Harrison had started driving Tanya home from her evening cleaning job. "That's just a friend," Tanya said. A friend who drives a car that costs more than I make in 5 years? A friend who looks at you like you hung the moon? Rita raised an eyebrow. Honey, that's not just a friend. It's complicated. Love always is, Rita said simply. It's not love, Tanya protested. He's just helping with my daughter's medical expenses. And does helping with medical expenses usually involve dinner every night and puppy dog eyes? He does not have puppy dog eyes, Tanya said, but she was smiling. If you say so. But let me give you some advice, young lady. When a good man shows interest, don't push him away just because you're scared or because you think you're not good enough. Good men are rare. Especially ones who look at your kid the way that man looks at Kenji. Tanya thought about Rita's words later that night as Harrison drove her home. The city lights reflected off the windshield and soft music played on the radio. What are you thinking about? Harrison asked, glancing over at her. Just about how much things have changed in 2 weeks, Tanya said. 2 weeks ago, I was terrified about how I'd pay for Kenji's surgery. I was working myself to death, barely sleeping and feeling hopeless. Now, my daughter has the best surgeon in the country scheduled, she has a computer to learn on, and I have a friend who actually cares about what happens to us. I do care, Harrison said seriously. More than I probably should. What does that mean? Harrison pulled up to her building and put the car in park. He turned to face her, his gray eyes intense in the dim light. It means that I think about you all the time. Means I look forward to seeing you and Kenji every day. It means that being with you two feels more like home than my empty penthouse ever has. It means I'm starting to feel things I haven't felt in a very long time. Tanya's breath caught. Harrison. I'm not asking for anything, Harrison said quickly. I know this isn't the right time with Kenji's surgery coming up. I just wanted you to know. You've become important to me. Both of you have. You've become important to us too, Tanya admitted. Kenji asks about you every day. She made you a drawing yesterday. She wants to give it to you tomorrow. And you? Harrison asked quietly. How do you feel? Tanya looked at this man who had come into her life so unexpectedly. This man who had every reason to be bitter about his circumstances but chose kindness instead. This man who played dinosaurs with her daughter and brought them dinner and made them feel valued. I feel grateful, she said honestly. I feel lucky. And I feel scared because I don't want to mess this up, whatever this is. You couldn't mess it up if you tried, Harrison said. Just be yourself. That's all I want. He reached over and took her hand, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. It was a simple touch, but it sent warmth spreading through Tanya's body. Let's get through the surgery, Tanya said. Then we can figure out what comes next. Deal? Harrison agreed. As Tanya walked into her building, she felt like she was floating. For the first time in her adult life, she felt like maybe, just maybe, something wonderful was about to happen. Not just the surgery but something more. Something that looked a lot like love. Thursday morning arrived too quickly. Tanya had barely slept the night before, her mind running through every possible scenario. She'd gotten up at 5 in the morning to help Kenji prepare, even though they didn't need to be at the hospital until 7. Kenji was nervous but trying to be brave. She wore her favorite dinosaur pajamas under a bright red jacket. She clutched her stuffed rabbit, Mr. Hoppy, against her chest. Mommy, will you be there when I wake up? Kenji asked for the 10th time. I'll be right there, baby. I promise. I won't leave your side. A knock came at the door at 6:30. Tanya opened it to find Harrison, dressed in jeans and a green sweater, holding 2 cups of coffee and a bag of donuts. I thought you might need sustenance, he said with a gentle smile. You came early, Tanya said, surprised. Of course I did. I told you I'd be with you every step of the way. Mr. Harrison. Kenji ran to him and he set the coffee and donuts down just in time to catch her careful hug. Good morning, sweetheart. Are you ready for your big day? I'm scared, Kenji admitted in a small voice. Harrison crouched in his wheelchair so he was at her level. It's okay to be scared. Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do what you need to do even though you're scared. And you, Kenji Robinson, are the bravest person I know. Braver than you? Kenji asked. Way braver than me. They drove to St. Mary's Medical Center in Harrison's car. Tanya sat in the front, holding her coffee with shaking hands. Kenji chattered nervously in the back seat, asking questions about everything she saw. The hospital was bright and clean, with colorful murals on the walls of the pediatric wing. Nurses in cheerful scrubs greeted them warmly. They were taken to a pre-op room where Kenji changed into a hospital gown. A nurse started in 4-line, explaining everything she was doing. Dr. Walsh came in looking confident and calm. How are we doing, Kenji? Okay, I guess, Kenji said. Can Mr. Hoppy come with me? Absolutely. Mr. Hoppy can come right up until you go to sleep, and he'll be waiting for you when you wake up. The anesthesiologist came next, a young man with a kind face who explained how he would help Kenji sleep through the surgery. Kenji listened carefully, asking smart questions. Too soon it was time. Two nurses came to wheel Kenji's bed to the operating room. Tanya walked beside the bed, holding Kenji's hand. Harrison rolled alongside them. When they reached the double doors marked, "Authorized personnel only," they had to stop. Tanya bent down and kissed her daughter's forehead. I love you so much, baby. You're going to do great. I love you too, Mommy, Kenji said, her voice small but steady. Harrison squeezed Kenji's other hand. I'll take care of your mom while you're asleep, okay? And when you wake up, I'll be right here. Promise? Kenji asked. Promise. Then the nurses wheeled Kenji through the doors and they were gone. Tanya stood frozen, staring at the closed doors. Harrison gently touched her arm. Let's go to the waiting room. The surgical waiting room was designed to be calming, with soft blue walls and comfortable chairs. A television played morning shows on mute. A few other families waited, each lost in their own worries. Tanya sat down and Harrison positioned his wheelchair next to her. She was trembling. She's going to be okay, Harrison said. You can't know that, Tanya whispered, tears starting to fall. What if something goes wrong? What if I lose her? She's everything to me, Harrison. Everything. I know, Harrison said. He reached out and took both of her hands in his. I know she is, and I know how scary this is, but Dr. Walsh is the best. The surgical team is the best. Kenji is strong. We have to believe. Tanya nodded, but the tears kept coming. Harrison pulled her closer and she leaned against his shoulder, letting herself cry. He held her, one arm around her shoulders, murmuring soft words of comfort. The surgery was supposed to take 4 hours. Each minute felt like an eternity. Harrison stayed close, never letting go of Tanya's hand unless absolutely necessary. He got her water when she was thirsty, found tissues when she cried, and just sat quietly when she needed silence. Other people in the waiting room came and went. A grandmother got good news about her grandson's broken arm. A young couple heard their baby daughter's heart murmur wasn't serious. Each time the door opened and a doctor stepped out, Tanya jumped, hoping and fearing it would be news about Kenji. 3 hours in, Harrison's phone rang. He glanced at it and frowned. It's my office. I should probably... Take it, Tanya said. You've put your whole life on hold for us today. Harrison hesitated, then answered. Greg, I'm at the hospital. Can this wait? Tanya couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but she saw Harrison's jaw tighten. No, I can't come in today. Kenji's in surgery? Yes, the little girl I told you about. Greg, I don't care if Johnson is threatening to pull out of the deal. He'll wait. Because some things are more important than business. I'll deal with it tomorrow. Goodbye, Greg. Harrison hung up, his expression frustrated. Was that important? Tanya asked. Nothing is more important than being here right now, Harrison said firmly. A business deal can wait. This can't. Tanya felt her heart swell. She squeezed his hand. Thank you. For being here. For everything. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. 4 hours passed. Then 4.5. Tanya's anxiety grew with each passing minute. Harrison stayed calm, his presence a steady anchor. Finally, at hour 5, the waiting room door opened and Dr. Walsh stepped out. She was still in her surgical scrubs, but she was smiling. Tanya? Harrison? She called. They rushed over, Tanya's heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. The surgery was a complete success, Dr. Walsh said. Kenji did beautifully. The repair looks perfect and she came through it like a champ. She's in recovery now and you can see her in about 30 minutes. Tanya's knees buckled. Harrison caught her, holding her up as relief flooded through her so intensely it was almost painful. She sobbed against his shoulder, but this time they were tears of joy and gratitude. Thank you, she gasped. Thank you so much. She's a special little girl, Dr. Walsh said warmly. The nurses are already in love with her. She woke up asking for both of you and for Mr. Hoppy in that order. When they were finally allowed into the recovery room, Kenji was awake but groggy. She had tubes and wires attached to her, but her eyes lit up when she saw them. Mommy, she whispered. Mr. Harrison. You're here. We're here, baby, Tanya said, kissing her daughter's hand carefully. We're right here. Did they fix my engine? Kenji asked, her voice sleepy. They fixed your engine perfectly, Harrison said. You're going to be just fine. Good, Kenji murmured. Can I have ice cream now? They all laughed, the tension of the day breaking into pure relief. Kenji drifted back to sleep, a small smile on her face. Tanya looked at Harrison across Kenji's hospital bed. His eyes were damp, his expression full of emotion. I don't know how to thank you, Tanya said softly. You don't need to thank me. Being here, being part of this, it's a gift. You've given me something I didn't think I'd ever have again. What's that? A family, Harrison said simply. Even if it's just for a moment, you've let me be part of something real and important. That's worth more than all the money I have. Tanya's heart felt so full she thought it might overflow. In this bright hospital room, with her daughter breathing steadily and this incredible man beside her, she felt complete in a way she never had before. You're part of this family for as long as you want to be, Tanya said. For as long as you'll stay. Then I'm not going anywhere, Harrison promised. And in that moment, Tanya knew with absolute certainty that her life had changed forever. What started with a cruel rejection in a restaurant entrance had led to this: hope, healing, and the possibility of love. The next 2 weeks were a blur of hospital visits, doctor checkups, and careful monitoring. Kenji proved to be a resilient patient, bouncing back faster than anyone expected. By day 3, she was sitting up and demanding to use her new computer. By day 5, she was walking around her room. By day 7, Dr. Walsh cleared her to go home with strict instructions for rest and limited activity. Harrison was there every day. He brought books, puzzles, and downloaded educational games onto a tablet for Kenji. He sat with Tanya during the long hours when Kenji slept, just keeping her company. They talked about everything. Their childhoods, their dreams, their fears, their favorite movies and foods and songs. Tanya learned that Harrison had been engaged once before his accident. His fiancée had left 6 months after the crash, unable to handle his new reality. The betrayal had cut deep, leaving Harrison wary of trusting anyone romantically. Harrison learned that Tanya had grown up in foster care, bouncing between homes until she aged out at 18. She'd put herself through community college while working full-time. Kenji's father had been a mistake, a brief relationship with a man who turned out to be completely unreliable. But Kenji was the best thing that had ever happened to her. On Kenji's first day home from the hospital, Harrison showed up with balloons and a giant stuffed velociraptor nearly as big as Kenji herself. This is for the bravest girl I know, he said, presenting the dinosaur with a flourish. Kenji squealed with delight, hugging the dinosaur tight. She named it Harrison Jr., which made both adults laugh. You've spoiled her completely, Tanya said, but she was smiling. Good, Harrison replied. That's my plan. As Kenji's strength returned, Harrison made sure both of them had everything they needed. When Tanya mentioned she was exhausted from working double shifts to make up for the time she'd taken off, Harrison had an idea. Come work for me, he said one evening after Kenji had gone to bed. Tanya looked at him in surprise. What? Come work at Pierce Technologies. Not as a janitor, though I'd hire you for that too if that's what you wanted. But I've seen how organized you are, how detail-oriented. I could use someone like you in my operations department. We'd train you, of course. You'd start as an administrative assistant, but there's room for growth. Harrison, I don't have that kind of experience. So, you're smart, you work hard, and you care about quality. That's more important than experience. I can teach you the technical stuff. And the pay would be 3 times what you're making now with full benefits and flexible hours so you can be there for Kenji. I don't know, Tanya said, torn between hope and doubt. That feels like charity. It's not charity, Harrison said firmly. It's an investment. I need good people and you're good people. Besides, wouldn't it be nice to work somewhere clean and bright during the day instead of scrubbing floors at night? Tanya had to admit he had a point. She'd spent 7 years cleaning other people's offices, working when everyone else was asleep, missing out on normal life. The idea of a day job with regular hours and room for advancement was tempting. Can I think about it? She asked. Take all the time you need, Harrison said. 2 days later, Tanya said yes. She gave notice at the cleaning company, and Rita threw her a small goodbye party. That man is crazy about you, Rita said as they shared cake in the break room. I hope you realize that. We're just friends, Tanya insisted, but even she was starting to doubt those words. Keep telling yourself that, honey. But friends don't look at each other the way you two do. Tanya started at Pierce Technologies the following Monday. The building was sleek and modern, all glass and steel and natural light. Her desk was in a bright office on the 15th floor with a view of the city. She had her own computer, her own phone line, her own nameplate, Tanya Robinson, operations assistant. Her supervisor, Julie Chin, was a warm woman in her 40s who took Tanya under her wing. "I heard you're a friend of Harrison's," Julie said on Tanya's first day. "He speaks highly of you." "He's been very kind to my family," Tanya said carefully. "He's a good man," Julie agreed. "Tough but fair, and he treats his employees well. You'll like it here." She did. The work was challenging but interesting. She learned quickly, taking copious notes and asking questions. Her coworkers were friendly and welcoming. And the flexible hours meant she could take Kenji to her follow-up appointments and be home in time for dinner every night. Harrison made a point to check in on her regularly, stopping by her desk with coffee or just to see how she was settling in. They had lunch together in the company cafeteria, talking about work and life and Kenji's progress. Other employees noticed. Tanya caught the curious glances, heard the whispered conversations that stopped when she walked by. She knew people were speculating about her relationship with the CEO. One afternoon, about 3 weeks into her new job, a woman named Sharon approached her desk. Sharon worked in marketing and had a reputation for being direct to the point of rudeness. "So," Sharon said, leaning against Tanya's desk, "how does it feel to land a cushy job by batting your eyelashes at the boss?" Tanya looked up, keeping her expression neutral. "I earned this job through my skills and work ethic." "Sure you did," Sharon said with a smirk. "We all know why you're really here. Must be nice to have a billionaire sugar daddy buying you everything you want." Before Tanya could respond, Harrison's voice cut through the office. "Sharon, my office. Now." Sharon paled and hurried away. Harrison rolled up to Tanya's desk, his expression concerned. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly. "I'm fine," Tanya said, but her hands were shaking slightly. "No, you're not. And that was completely inappropriate. I'm sorry you had to hear that." "It's what people think though, isn't it?" Tanya said. "That I'm only here because of you. Who cares what people think?" Harrison said. "You know the truth. I know the truth. That's what matters." But it did bother her. That evening, after Kenji was asleep, Tanya sat in her living room and cried. She'd worked so hard her whole life, never taking shortcuts, never asking for handouts. Now people thought she was using Harrison for his money, that she hadn't earned her place. Her phone rang. It was Harrison. "I wanted to check on you," he said. "Sharon has been written up and warned that another comment like that will result in termination. But I know that doesn't erase what she said." "I don't want special treatment," Tanya said, wiping her eyes. "I don't want people thinking I can't make it on my own." "You don't need special treatment. You're doing great work. Julie tells me you're exceeding every expectation. Your colleagues respect you. Sharon is just jealous and mean-spirited. Don't let one person's pettiness make you doubt yourself." "Is she wrong though?" Tanya asked. "Be honest, Harrison. Would you have hired me if we weren't friends?" Harrison was quiet for a moment. "Probably not," he admitted. "Not because you're not qualified, but because I wouldn't have known you existed. That's how most job connections work, Tanya. People hire people they know. But once I hired you, you earned your place all on your own. I'm not doing your work for you. I'm not giving you a free pass. You're succeeding because you're good at what you do." "I hope so," Tanya said quietly. "I know so. Listen, I'm coming over tomorrow evening with dinner. We need to talk." "About what?" "About us. About what this is between us. Because I think we've been dancing around it long enough." Tanya's heart skipped. "Okay." The next evening, Harrison arrived with Thai food and a serious expression. They ate with Kenji, who chattered happily about her day and the progress she was making on her computer programming lessons. After dinner, Harrison helped Kenji with her homework while Tanya cleaned up. Once Kenji was in bed, they sat in the living room. Tanya on the couch, Harrison in his wheelchair beside her. "I need to be honest with you," Harrison began. "These past few weeks, spending time with you and Kenji, have been the happiest I've been in years. Maybe ever. I wake up thinking about you. I go to sleep thinking about you. Everything I do during the day, I think about how I can tell you about it later. You've become the center of my world, and I think I've fallen in love with you." Tanya's breath caught. She'd known this conversation was coming, had felt the pull between them growing stronger every day, but hearing the words still shocked her. "I love spending time with you too," Tanya said carefully. "You've been incredible to me and Kenji. But Harrison, I'm scared. We're from such different worlds. What if this doesn't work? What if people are right and this is all just gratitude and circumstances?" "Is it?" Harrison asked. "When you look at me, do you just see someone who helped you? Or do you see more?" Tanya thought about it honestly. She thought about how her heart jumped when he texted her. She thought about how natural it felt to have him in her home, in her life. She thought about how Kenji had asked if Harrison could be her dad. I see more, she admitted. I see someone kind and patient and funny. I see someone who treats my daughter like she matters. I see someone who makes me feel valued and seen. I see someone I could love if I let myself. Then let yourself, Harrison said simply. Let yourself take a chance. We'll figure out the rest as we go. What if I mess this up? Tanya whispered. What if you don't? Harrison countered. What if this is the start of something amazing? He reached for her hand and she let him take it. His touch was warm, solid, real. I'm scared too, Harrison said. Terrified, actually. The last person I let myself love left me when things got hard. But with you I'm willing to risk it. You're worth the risk. Tanya looked into his gray eyes and saw nothing but sincerity. She made a decision. Okay, she said. Let's try. Let's see where this goes. Harrison's smile could have lit up the entire city. Really? Really? He pulled her closer and she slid off the couch to kneel beside his wheelchair. They stayed like that for a long moment, foreheads touching, just breathing together. This is the best decision you'll ever make, Harrison said softly. I hope so, Tanya replied. Because my heart is all in now. And with those words they crossed the line from friendship into something deeper. Something that felt a lot like love. The next few weeks were filled with quiet joy. Harrison and Tanya didn't rush into anything physical, taking their time to build their relationship on a foundation of trust and genuine connection. They went on dates, dinner at casual restaurants, walks in the park with Kenji, movie nights at Tanya's apartment. Harrison met Tanya's few friends, and Tanya slowly got to know some of Harrison's trusted colleagues. But not everything was smooth sailing. Greg Thompson, Harrison's business partner and longtime friend, called an unexpected meeting at Harrison's office one afternoon. Tanya was at her desk when she saw Greg storm past, his expression thunderous. Through Harrison's office walls she could hear raised voices. You're making a mistake, Greg said, his voice carrying. The board is starting to ask questions. They're worried you're not focused on the company anymore. My focus is fine, Harrison replied coolly. Our quarterly reports are the best they've been in years. That's not the point. You're dating an employee, Harrison. That's a liability. And not just any employee but someone with no experience who you hired personally. It looks bad. She's qualified and she's doing excellent work. That's not how it looks from the outside. People are talking. They think she's using you. They think you're having some kind of midlife crisis. I don't care what people think. Well, you should. Because perception matters in business. And right now, the perception is that you're being taken advantage of by a woman who saw a lonely, rich man and decided to cash in. Tanya felt sick. She shouldn't be listening, but she couldn't help it. Was that really what people thought? Get out of my office, Harrison said, his voice dangerously quiet. And don't speak about Tanya like that again. She's worth 10 of most people I know, including you. I'm trying to protect you, Greg said. As your friend and your partner. Some friend, Harrison shot back. A real friend would be happy that I've found someone who makes me happy. Instead, you're more worried about what the board thinks than about my actual well-being. Be realistic, Harrison. This relationship is a disaster waiting to happen. What do you two even have in common? She's a single mom from the wrong side of town. You're a billionaire CEO. It's a fairy tale and fairy tales don't exist in real life. We're done here, Harrison said firmly. Leave. Now. Greg left, his face red with frustration. He didn't even glance at Tanya as he passed. Tanya tried to focus on her work, but her hands were shaking. Maybe Greg was right. Maybe she was being naive to think this could work. That evening, Harrison came to her apartment looking tired and frustrated. Kenji was at a friend's house for a playdate, so they were alone. You heard what Greg said, didn't you? Harrison asked. Tanya nodded. Some of it. He's wrong. You know that, right? Is he though? Tanya asked. Harrison, be honest. Are we being realistic here? You have this whole world of business meetings and fancy dinners and people who speak a language I don't understand. I used to clean offices. Now I'm learning to be an administrator, but I'm still figuring it out. We're from completely different worlds. So what? Harrison said, moving closer. Different doesn't mean incompatible. You make me laugh. You make me think. You make me want to be better. What does it matter if we started from different places? It matters to your friends. It matters to your business partners. Maybe it should matter to us too. Is this about what people think? Or is this about your own doubts? Harrison asked gently. Tanya sighed, sinking onto the couch. Maybe both. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, For you to wake up and realize you could do so much better. For you to find someone from your world who fits better. I don't want someone from my world, Harrison said. I want you. Exactly as you are. With your strength and your kindness and your amazing daughter. I want our late-night talks and our simple dinners and the way you make everything feel real and important. What if I'm not enough? Tanya whispered. Harrison moved his wheelchair directly in front of her and took both her hands. You are more than enough. You're everything. And I need you to believe that. At work the next day things got worse. Tanya noticed people staring, heard conversations stop when she approached. At lunch, she sat alone in the cafeteria watching other employees laugh and chat in their groups. Sharon walked past with a group of women from marketing. Must be nice to sleep your way to the top, Sharon muttered, just loud enough for Tanya to hear. Tanya stood up abruptly, her tray clattering. I'm not sleeping with anyone, she said, her voice carrying across the cafeteria. And I earned my position through hard work just like everyone else here. If you have a problem with that, take it up with HR, not with gossip. The cafeteria went silent. Sharon looked embarrassed but defiant. Then, surprisingly, Julie Chin stood up. Tanya's right, Julie said. She's been an excellent addition to our team. She works hard, learns fast, and contributes meaningfully. Her personal life is none of our business. I suggest we all focus on our own work instead of spreading rumors. A few other people nodded in agreement. Sharon huffed and walked away. Later, Julie stopped by Tanya's desk. Good for you for standing up for yourself. Thanks for backing me up, Tanya said. I meant what I said. You're doing great work. Don't let the petty people bring you down. But at home that evening, Tanya felt exhausted from the constant scrutiny. She was sitting on the couch when Kenji came and sat beside her. Mommy, are you sad? Kenji asked. A little bit, honey. Is it because of Mr. Harrison? Why would you think that? Because you smile when he's here and you're not smiling now. Did you have a fight? No, baby. We didn't fight. It's just complicated grown-up stuff. Kenji was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I like Mr. Harrison. I hope he stays. What do you mean? I mean, I hope he doesn't leave like my dad did. I know I was just a baby, but I know he left. And I don't want Mr. Harrison to leave too. Tanya's heart broke a little. Oh, sweetheart. Mr. Harrison is a good man. He's not going anywhere. Promise? Tanya couldn't promise that, but she said, he cares about us very much. And he's not the kind of person who leaves when things get hard. Good, Kenji said. Because I think he should be my dad. Can he be my dad? That's a big question, honey. But do you love him? Kenji asked with the straightforward honesty of a child. Did she love him? Tanya thought about how Harrison made her feel safe and valued. She thought about his patience with Kenji, his kindness to everyone, his quiet strength. She thought about how much she missed him when he wasn't around. Yes, Tanya admitted. I think I do love him. Then he should be my dad, Kenji said simply. Because families are made of people who love each other. Out of the mouths of babes, Tanya thought. Her 7-year-old daughter had just summed up what she'd been too scared to acknowledge. She called Harrison that night after Kenji was asleep. I love you, she said as soon as he answered. There was a pause. Then Harrison's voice, full of emotion, say that again. I love you. I'm scared and I'm worried about what people think and I'm not sure how this all works, but I love you. And I'm tired of being afraid. I'm coming over, Harrison said. It's almost midnight. I don't care. I need to see you. 20 minutes later, Harrison was at her door. As soon as she opened it, he pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. I love you too, he said against her hair. I love you so much. And I don't care what anyone thinks. We'll figure this out together. They stood there in her doorway holding each other, and Tanya felt the doubts begin to fade. This was real. This was right. And they would face whatever came next as a team. A few days later, Tanya overheard a conversation that changed everything. She'd stayed late at work to finish a project and most of the office had cleared out. She was walking past the break room when she heard her name. I'm telling you it's pathetic, a voice said. Tanya recognized it as Brad from accounting. Harrison Pierce is a smart guy, but he's completely blind when it comes to this Tanya woman. Maybe he actually likes her, another voice suggested. Oh please. She's a gold digger, pure and simple. Single mom with a sick kid sees a rich, lonely guy in a wheelchair and decides he's her meal ticket. It's the oldest scam in the book. Tanya felt her face burn with anger and hurt. But before she could decide whether to confront them or walk away, Harrison's voice cut through. That's interesting, Brad. Please tell me more about this theory of yours. Tanya peeked around the corner to see Harrison in the break room doorway, his expression cold as ice. Brad's face went white. Mr. Pierce, I didn't. I was just what? Just insulting the woman I love to your coworkers? Just making baseless accusations about someone you don't even know. I'm sorry, Do you know how I met Tanya? Harrison continued, his voice deadly calm. I was at a restaurant for a blind date. A woman took one look at my wheelchair and walked out, loudly insulting me in front of everyone. I sat there, humiliated, ready to leave and never try again. Tanya was working there. She didn't know who I was or how much money I had. She just saw a person who'd been hurt and she showed kindness. She gave up her break to sit with me, to remind me that I was still worth something. Brad looked at the floor, unable to meet Harrison's eyes. Tanya didn't ask me for anything, Harrison continued. I offered to help with her daughter's surgery because it was the right thing to do. I offered her a job here because she's smart and capable. And I fell in love with her because she's genuine and kind and makes me a better person. Not because of what I can give her, but because of who she is. I'm sorry, Brad mumbled. Sorry isn't enough. You're fired. Clean out your desk and be gone within the hour. What? You can't fire me over this. I absolutely can. I have zero tolerance for employees who spread malicious gossip and create a hostile work environment. HR will be in touch about your final paycheck. Harrison turned his wheelchair and rolled out of the break room. He saw Tanya standing in the hallway, tears streaming down her face. How much did you hear? He asked gently. Everything, she whispered. You defended me. Of course I did. I'll always defend you. You didn't have to fire him. Yes, I did. That kind of talk has no place in my company. Besides, I meant every word I said. You're not using me, Tanya. You never have been. You're loving me. There's a difference. Tanya threw her arms around him, not caring who might see. I love you. So much. I love you too, Harrison said, holding her tight. And I'm done hiding it or apologizing for it. That evening, Harrison sent an email to the entire company. It was simple and direct. To all Pierce Technologies employees, I want to address some rumors that have been circulating. I am in a relationship with Tanya Robinson. She earned her position here through her own merit, and she continues to excel in her role. Any employee found spreading false information or creating a hostile environment will face immediate disciplinary action, up to and including termination. I expect all of you to treat each other with respect and professionalism. Sincerely, Harrison Pierce, CEO. The next day at work, the atmosphere had changed. Some people still whispered, but most seemed to have gotten the message. Julie Chin stopped by Tanya's desk with a smile. Good for you too, Julie said. It's about time someone made our boss happy. He's been a grump for too long. He's not a grump, Tanya protested with a laugh. You haven't seen him before you came along. Trust me, he's a different person now. A better person. Even Sharon came by looking uncomfortable. I owe you an apology, she said stiffly. I was out of line. I hope you'll accept it. I appreciate that, Tanya said carefully. Thank you. That weekend, Harrison invited Tanya and Kenji to his penthouse for the first time. Tanya had been curious about where he lived but had never asked to see it. The penthouse was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows with city views, modern furniture, a kitchen that looked like something from a magazine. But it also felt empty, cold. There were no photos, no personal touches, nothing that made it feel like a home. It's beautiful, Tanya said diplomatically. It's a hotel room, Harrison said with a wry smile. I've never bothered to make it feel like home. I was never here long enough to care. Can we go on the balcony? Kenji asked, pressing her face against the glass. Of course, Harrison said, unlocking the door that led outside. The balcony wrapped around the entire apartment, offering a 360-degree view of the city. Kenji ran around excitedly while Tanya and Harrison sat on comfortable outdoor furniture. I've been thinking, Harrison said. This place doesn't feel like home because it's missing something. What's that? You. Both of you. Your apartment, as small as it is, feels more like home than this place ever has. Because you're there. Harrison. I'm not asking you to move in, he clarified quickly. I know it's too soon for that. But I want you to know that wherever you are, that's where I want to be. This penthouse, your apartment, a cardboard box under a bridge. None of it matters as long as we're together. Tanya leaned against him, watching Kenji play. I never thought I could have this, she admitted. Someone who loves me, who loves my daughter. Someone who makes me feel like I'm enough exactly as I am. You're more than enough, Harrison said, kissing the top of her head. You're everything. Later, as they cooked dinner together in Harrison's massive kitchen, Kenji helping to make salad, Tanya felt something settle in her chest. Peace, contentment, hope for a future she'd never dared to dream about. "Hey, Mr. Harrison?" Kenji said as they set the table. "Yes, Kenji? Can I call you Dad?" The room went silent. Harrison's eyes filled with tears. He looked at Tanya, who nodded encouragingly. "I would be honored," Harrison said, his voice thick with emotion. "I would be so honored." Kenji beamed and ran to hug him. Harrison held her close, and Tanya joined them, wrapping her arms around them both. In that moment, standing in the bright, modern kitchen, the three of them formed their own little family. Not perfect, not traditional, but real and full of love. The doubts and judgments of others didn't matter anymore. What mattered was this: three people who had found each other when they needed it most, who chose to build something beautiful together despite the obstacles. And that was worth everything. What would you do if someone publicly questioned your relationship? How would you prove that love is real, not convenient? Share your thoughts below and don't forget to subscribe to see how this family story continues to unfold. 6 months had passed since that night in Harrison's penthouse. 6 months of building a life together, of navigating the challenges that came with blending their different worlds, of proving to themselves and others that their love was real and lasting. Kenji was thriving. Her heart was completely healed and she'd grown 2 inches. She was excelling in school, particularly in math and science. Harrison had started teaching her more advanced programming, and she was creating simple games and animations on her computer. She called him Dad now without hesitation, and he responded with the same pride and love any father would. Tanya had been promoted to operations coordinator, a move that was based entirely on her performance reviews and accomplishments. Julie Chin had been instrumental in championing her promotion, ensuring no one could claim it was favoritism. Harrison's company was doing better than ever. The board had grumbled initially about his relationship with Tanya, but when the quarterly reports kept showing record profits, their complaints faded. Greg Thompson had eventually apologized and accepted the relationship, though things between him and Harrison would never be quite the same. But there were still challenges. Harrison's mother, Patricia Pierce, had finally agreed to meet Tanya. She'd been traveling in Europe when Harrison first told her about the relationship, and she'd made her disapproval clear over the phone. Now she was back in the States and had invited them all to dinner at her estate in the countryside. Tanya was terrified. "She's going to hate me," Tanya said as she tried on her 5th outfit of the evening. She'd settled on a simple but elegant blue dress that Harrison had bought her for work events. "She's not going to hate you," Harrison said from where he sat on her bed. "She's just protective and set in her ways. But she'll see what I see, an incredible woman who makes her son happy. What if she doesn't? Then that's her problem, not ours." "But Tanya, look at me." He waited until she turned to face him. "I love you. I'm going to marry you someday. My mother's opinion doesn't change that. Nothing changes that." Tanya's heart jumped at the word marry, but she tried to stay focused. "You really think she'll come around?" "I know she will. Once she sees you with Kenji, once she sees how happy we are, she'll understand." The drive to Patricia Pierce's estate took an hour. Kenji sat in the back seat, unusually quiet. She wore a bright red dress and her best shoes, and she clutched Mr. Hoppy in her lap. "Are you okay, baby?" Tanya asked, turning to look at her daughter. "I'm nervous," Kenji admitted. "What if Dad's mom doesn't like me?" "She will absolutely like you," Harrison said firmly. "You're amazing, Kenji. Anyone who doesn't see that is missing out." The estate was impressive: acres of manicured lawns, a circular driveway with a fountain, and a house that looked like something from a historical film. A butler answered the door and led them to a sitting room where Patricia Pierce waited. She was in her late 60s, with silver hair styled perfectly and wearing an expensive pearl-colored suit. Her blue eyes were sharp and assessing as she stood to greet them. "Harrison," she said, kissing his cheek. "It's good to see you." "Hi, Mom. This is Tanya Robinson and her daughter Kenji." Patricia turned her gaze to Tanya, looking her up and down. Tanya forced herself to stand tall and not fidget. "Mrs. Pierce, it's a pleasure to meet you," Tanya said, extending her hand. Patricia shook it briefly. "Likewise. And this is the young lady I've heard about." "Yes, ma'am. This is my daughter Kenji." Kenji stepped forward and, to everyone's surprise, gave a little curtsy. "It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Pierce. Thank you for inviting us to your beautiful home." Something in Patricia's expression softened slightly. "Well, you have lovely manners, child." "My mom taught me," Kenji said proudly. Dinner was formal and slightly uncomfortable. Patricia asked Tanya pointed questions about her background, her education, her career plans. Tanya answered honestly, refusing to embellish or apologize for where she'd come from. So you were a janitor when you met my son? Patricia asked. Yes, ma'am. I worked 2 jobs to support my daughter. And now you work for Harrison's company. I do. I started as an administrative assistant and was recently promoted to operations coordinator. I see. Patricia's tone suggested she saw more than Tanya would like. Harrison's jaw tightened. Mom, I hope you're not implying. I'm not implying anything, dear. I'm simply trying to understand the situation. The situation is that I love Tanya and she loves me. Kenji is like my own daughter. They make me happier than I've been in years. That's all you need to understand. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Then she turned to Kenji, who had been eating quietly but attentively. Tell me, Kenji, what do you like to do? I like computers, Kenji said. Dad is teaching me to program. I made a game where a dinosaur has to jump over obstacles. And I like reading and math and science. A young lady after my own heart, Patricia said, surprising everyone. I was a mathematics professor before I retired. Really? Kenji's eyes lit up. That's so cool. Do you know about the Fibonacci sequence? Dad taught me about it. For the first time that evening, Patricia smiled. I do indeed. Can you explain it to me? Kenji launched into an explanation, her enthusiasm overcoming her nervousness. Patricia listened attentively, asking questions and seeming genuinely impressed by Kenji's understanding. After dinner, Patricia asked to speak with Tanya privately. They walked to the garden while Harrison and Kenji looked at Patricia's impressive book collection. I'll be honest with you, Ms. Robinson, Patricia began. When Harrison told me he was dating his employee, I was concerned. When he told me you had been a janitor, I was more concerned. I thought perhaps you were taking advantage of my son's loneliness and wealth. Tanya's stomach clenched, but she kept her expression neutral. However, Patricia continued, I've watched you tonight. I've seen how you look at my son, how you've raised your daughter. That child is bright, polite, and clearly loved. You did that, working 2 jobs and facing hardship. That takes strength and character. Thank you, Tanya said quietly. More importantly, I haven't seen Harrison this happy since before his accident. Actually, I'm not sure I've ever seen him this content. He looks at you like you hung the moon. And little Kenji clearly adores him. She does. He's been wonderful to her, to both of us. Patricia stopped walking and turned to face Tanya. My son has been through a great deal. His accident, his former fiancée's betrayal, the challenge of rebuilding his life. He's strong, but he was becoming hard and closed off. You've changed that. You've reminded him how to be happy. He's done the same for me, Tanya said. Before I met Harrison, I was exhausted and scared and just trying to survive. He gave me hope. He gave Kenji a chance at a healthy life. He gave us both a family. Patricia's eyes softened. I can see that. And I can see that you love him for who he is, not what he has. That's rare, Ms. Robinson. In our world, that's very rare indeed. I love him with everything I have, Tanya said simply. Then you have my blessing, Patricia said. And my apology for judging you before I met you. I hope you'll give an old woman a second chance. Of course, Tanya said, relief flooding through her. Thank you. That means more than you know. They returned to the house to find Harrison showing Kenji how to navigate a complex computer program while she asked a million questions. The sight of them together, heads bent over the screen, made both women smile. She'll be running your company someday, Patricia observed. I hope so, Harrison said, looking up at them. Is everything okay? Everything is perfect, Patricia said. In fact, I was hoping you'd all stay for dessert. I have a chocolate cake that I think Kenji would enjoy. The rest of the evening was warm and pleasant. Patricia told stories about Harrison as a child, and Kenji listened raptly. Harrison relaxed, the tension leaving his shoulders. Tanya felt herself welcomed into the family in a way she'd never expected. As they drove home that night, Kenji asleep in the back seat, Harrison reached over and took Tanya's hand. Thank you, he said. For what? For being exactly who you are. For winning over my mother. For making this work despite all the obstacles. For choosing me. I'll always choose you, Tanya said. You and Kenji are my whole world now. Good, Harrison said. Because I have something planned for next weekend. Something important. What is it? You'll see, Harrison said with a mysterious smile. Tanya didn't push, but excitement bubbled in her chest. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Their little family, built on kindness and hope and love, was unshakable. They had proven everyone wrong. They had shown that love could bridge any divide, that families could be formed in unexpected ways, that choosing each other was the bravest and best thing they could do. And the best part? This was just the beginning. The following Saturday, Harrison picked up Tanya and Kenji early in the morning. He'd asked Tanya to dress casually and to pack a lunch. She'd assumed they were going to a park or maybe a museum. She was half right. Harrison drove them to Riverside Park, a beautiful green space along the water where families picnicked and children played. The weather was perfect. Blue skies, gentle breeze, warm sunshine. He led them to a spot under a large oak tree where he'd already set up a blanket and pillows. "This is nice," Tanya said, settling onto the blanket with Kenji. "It's about to get better," Harrison said. He had a nervous energy about him that Tanya couldn't quite place. They ate the lunch Harrison had packed: sandwiches, fruit, cookies. Kenji ran around flying a kite that Harrison had brought. Other families dotted the park, and somewhere in the distance, a band played cheerful music. "Kenji, honey, come here for a minute," Harrison called. Kenji came running over, breathless and happy. Harrison pulled her aside and whispered something in her ear. Her eyes went wide and she nodded enthusiastically. Then she ran back to flying her kite, but she kept glancing back at them with barely contained excitement. "What was that about?" Tanya asked. "You'll see," Harrison said. He took Tanya's hands in his gray eyes serious. "Tanya, do you remember the night we met?" "Of course. At the restaurant. I was at my lowest point. I'd convinced myself that I would spend the rest of my life alone, that no one would ever see past this wheelchair. I was ready to give up on connection, on love, on everything that makes life worth living. And then you came along." Tanya felt tears prick at her eyes. "Harrison, you saw me when everyone else looked away. You showed me kindness when I needed it most. And in the months since, you've shown me what real love looks like. Not love based on appearances or status or convenience, but love based on who we are as people. You've given me a family. You've given me a purpose beyond work. You've given me a future I want to fight for." Harrison shifted, reaching into his pocket. Tanya's breath caught as he pulled out a small velvet box. "I know we haven't known each other that long," Harrison continued, "but I've never been more certain of anything in my life. Tanya Robinson, you and Kenji have become my entire world. I can't imagine my life without you in it. I don't want to imagine it." He opened the box to reveal a ring, a simple but stunning diamond on a gold band, elegant and perfect. "Will you marry me?" Harrison asked. "Will you let me be your husband and Kenji's father for real? Will you build a life with me?" Tanya was crying now, tears of joy streaming down her face. "Yes," she said, her voice breaking. "Yes, of course, yes." Harrison slipped the ring onto her finger and it fit perfectly. Then he pulled her close and kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. "Yay." Kenji came running over, abandoning her kite. "Mommy said yes." She said yes. "You knew?" Tanya laughed through her tears. "Dad told me this morning. He asked if I would be okay with him being my dad forever. I said yes really loud." Kenji launched herself at them and they all hugged together, laughing and crying. Other families in the park noticed and started clapping. A few people called out congratulations. Harrison laughed, something Tanya realized she'd grown to love more than anything, the sound of his genuine happiness. "When should we do this?" Tanya asked when they'd calmed down. "Get married, I mean." "Whenever you want," Harrison said. "Tomorrow, next year, I don't care. As long as it happens." "I want a small wedding," Tanya said. "Just people who matter. Nothing fancy." "Sounds perfect to me." They spent the rest of the afternoon in the park, planning their future. Harrison wanted to look for a new place, something that would be theirs together. Neither his sterile penthouse nor Tanya's small apartment felt right anymore. "Something with a yard for Kenji," Harrison said. "And a good school district. And space for all of us. And maybe a dog?" Kenji suggested hopefully. "Maybe a dog," Harrison agreed with a smile. 3 months later, they stood in a small garden ceremony with 25 guests. Tanya wore a simple but beautiful ivory dress with blue accents. Harrison wore a dark blue suit. Kenji wore a bright red dress and served as the flower girl, taking her job very seriously. Patricia Pierce sat in the front row, beaming with pride. Julie Chin was there with her family. Rita from Tanya's old cleaning job sat next to them, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. A few of Harrison's close colleagues attended, along with some of Kenji's classmates and their parents. The ceremony was held at the botanical garden, surrounded by blooming flowers and green trees. No fancy ballroom, no hundreds of guests, no elaborate displays. Just two people who loved each other, promising to build a life together. Do you, Harrison James Pierce, take Tanya Marie Robinson to be your lawfully wedded wife? The officiant asked. I do, Harrison said firmly, his eyes never leaving Tanya's face. And do you, Tanya Marie Robinson, take Harrison James Pierce to be your lawfully wedded husband? I do, Tanya said through happy tears. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride. Harrison pulled Tanya close and kissed her as their small crowd cheered. Kenji jumped up and down, clapping excitedly. At the reception held at a local restaurant with good food and warm atmosphere, Tanya gave a short speech. A year ago, I was working 2 jobs, terrified for my daughter's future, and convinced that life would always be a struggle. I'd given up on the idea of love or partnership. I was just trying to survive. Then I met this man at his worst moment and my lowest point. He was dealing with rejection. I was dealing with fear. But somehow we found each other. Harrison showed me that accepting help isn't weakness. He showed me that kindness leads to beautiful things. He showed me that families can be built in unexpected ways, that love doesn't care about where you came from or what you have. I love you, Harrison. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for choosing us. Harrison responded, Tanya, you saved my life that night in the restaurant. You reminded me that I was still human, still worthy of connection. You took my hand and my heart and handled both with such care. You let me love your daughter like my own. You built a home with me. I promise to spend every day showing you how much you mean to me. I promise to be the father Kenji deserves. I promise to choose you every single day for the rest of my life. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Kenji gave a toast too, standing on a chair so everyone could see her. My dad is the best. He teaches me about computers and dinosaurs and always listens to my ideas. My mom is the strongest person I know. And now we're a real family. I love you both so much. Patricia Pierce approached Tanya during the dancing portion of the evening. Welcome to the family, dear. Officially this time. I'm glad my son found you. I'm glad too, Tanya said, hugging her new mother-in-law. Take care of him, Patricia said. And let him take care of you. That's what partnership is. I will, Tanya promised. As the evening wound down, Tanya and Harrison snuck away for a quiet moment alone. They stood on a balcony overlooking the garden where they'd been married, watching the last rays of sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Are you happy? Harrison asked. Happier than I ever thought possible, Tanya said. You? Beyond happy. Beyond anything I could have imagined. They stood in comfortable silence, Harrison's arm around Tanya's waist, both of them marveling at how dramatically their lives had changed. A year ago, Harrison had been rejected at a blind date, convinced he'd never find love. Tanya had been drowning in medical bills and fear, working herself to exhaustion just to stay afloat. Neither of them could have predicted this. A marriage, a family, a future full of hope and possibility. What are you thinking about? Tanya asked. I'm thinking about that woman who walked out of the restaurant, Harrison said. Bethany, I think her name was. I should probably send her a thank you card. Tanya laughed. Why? Because if she hadn't rejected me, I wouldn't have been sitting there when you walked by. I wouldn't have met you or Kenji. I wouldn't have this incredible life. So really, her cruelty led to the best thing that ever happened to me. I guess she did us a favor, Tanya agreed. The worst night of your life led to all of this. Exactly. Sometimes the worst moments are actually the beginning of the best ones. We just have to be brave enough to keep going, to stay open, to accept help when it's offered. And to offer help when we can, Tanya added. Yes, that too. Inside they could hear Kenji laughing, probably causing mischief with the other children. Music played, glasses clinked, people celebrated. Their people. Their family. Ready to go back in? Harrison asked. Ready, Tanya said, taking his hand. They returned to their reception, to their daughter, to their new life together. They danced and laughed and celebrated with the people who mattered. And when the night finally ended and they went home, Kenji asleep in the back seat and the stars bright overhead, they drove to their new house. Not Harrison's penthouse or Tanya's apartment, but their home. The place where they would raise Kenji together, where they would build memories, where they would prove every day that love, real love, could overcome any obstacle. Harrison had found his family. Tanya had found her partner. Kenji had found her father. And together, they'd found something that neither money nor status could buy. Genuine connection, unwavering support, and love that would last a lifetime. All because one night, in a restaurant entrance, a kind woman had stopped to help a lonely man in a wheelchair. All because they'd both been brave enough to accept each other's help, to open their hearts, to take a chance on something unexpected. And they lived happily, truly, genuinely ever after.